Hi guys, it's Ben Larry here. I'm pissed off with these words accepted for value. I don't reckon, let me just change colour, I don't reckon there's any need for those words for value. I don't think they've got any logical place in relation to a drawee's acceptance, right? I reckon that all these need is the acceptance. People think the words for value have some magical meaning that means you're not the straw man and you're accepting to pay it by set off and all this. People have got this great big long fairy tale story about what they reckon that means in their imagination, and it doesn't. I just don't see it. Okay, I reckon all that you need is accepted. Here's why. Now, let me explain what I mean. I reckon people confuse two different types of acceptance, right? With negotiable instruments, a drawee's acceptance means a very specific thing. It means, let's put drawee's acceptance. That's what an acceptance of a bill is, right? It's a money order. Whoever's being asked to pay accepts it, and it means you're accepting the obligation to pay the instrument. It doesn't mean they're sending it to you as a gift, like as if it's a box of chocolates and you're accepting it. Thank you very much. I take ownership of it now. It's my instrument. That's not what it. That's not. That's a different thing, right? So let's look. Sorry, let's just put it a bit higher. Oops, drawee's acceptance. Let's just put it there, right? Um, that's the acceptance of the obligation to pay. Acceptance of tender, for example, would be if somebody sent you something with the intention of giving the ownership rights to you, right? If somebody sent me a box of chocolates, I'd say thank you very much. That's so kind of you. I accept the gift. It's mine now. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. The chocolates are now mine. So you've got two different things here. You've got the drawee's acceptance, which is acceptance of the obligation to pay. The key word there is obligation. A drawee's acceptance, otherwise known as a banker's acceptance, as people like to call it, the key word is obligation. You're accepting the obligation to pay, but people mix it up and just make up an imaginary story that, of what they think is acceptance of tender is acceptance of ownership rights. If somebody said, Ben, here's a gift, here's a car, and I say, oh, I accept it, thank you very much, it's mine now, ownership rights. When somebody presents the drawee with a bill, they're not giving them the instrument, right? They're presenting it for the drawee to accept the obligation to pay, right? It's two opposite things, right? And it drives me insane because people parade around like a peacock and they masquerade around as if they're, an expert on negotiable instruments, and everybody kind of apparently understands what accepted for value means. And yet when I question people on it, when we really get down to the nitty-gritty, people fold like a tent. No one can explain it. Everybody folds like a tent. No, there's very few people I know actually understand negotiable instruments, and the rest of them have just got this bizarre make-believe fairy tale wishful thinking explanation of what they reckon accepted for value means. You can just make things up. In negotiable instrument language, there's very specific, it's not complicated the way bills of exchange were. It's very specific rules, it's set in stone, it's black and white, it's not complicated, there's specific things, and a drawee's acceptance is a very specific thing. And you don't find the phrase accepted for value in UCC 3. It's not an actual phrase in the real world, right? Here's where it comes from. I could be wrong, but you can tell me. If I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong. Tell me, but I don't think I am. I think I'm right. But let's see. Let's find out. The words for value come from the context of holder for value. That's the only place you'll find the words for value in UCC 3. It has no relation to the acceptance. It has a relation to the holder. Now, the holder is the person that owns the instrument. They've got the ownership rights of the instrument. They're the person entitled to be paid on the instrument. It's the holder who presents it to the drawee for the drawee to accept the obligation to pay and to pay the holder. It's the holder's instrument. Now, a holder for value means they legitimately paid for it means they bought it from a previous holder. Like if I bought a car and paid money for it, I'm I'm the owner of the car for value. That means I paid value in order to receive the ownership rights of it. That's what it means. So that's what for value means, a holder for value. It means they legitimately paid for the instrument from the person that sold it to them. That's what it means, right? Okay? For value has no place in the context of the acceptance. It's just not. I don't know where that phrase came from. Who the hell came up with this? Accepted for value. Right, here's my next gripe, okay? Because think about it in the real world. Just step into the actual real world for a second. The only if you're either accepting an obligation, and if you're accepting an obligation for value, that can only mean that you're accepting the obligation because you received valuable consideration in exchange for you undertaking that obligation to pay. It can only, if you're accepting an obligation to pay, it can only mean, accepting it for value can only mean that you received valuable goods or services, which gave rise to the bill, right? So you can only be confirming that you received goods. So accepting to pay, accepted for value, only helps the issuer of the bill because you're confirming that you received valuable consideration in exchange for paying. So it doesn't help the drawee, it doesn't help us, it helps them. It doesn't make sense for us to write that, okay? Think about it in the real world. Or in the opposite, if you're accepting ownership rights as opposed to an obligation, you know, the opposite, say you accept delivery of a car or delivery of a laptop, and if you're accepting the ownership rights for value, think about it, it can only mean that you paid for it. You're accepting it, you're accepting the rights for value you paid. Right? That's the two scenarios. You're either accepting an obligation for value you received, or you're accepting the ownership rights for value you paid. Right? That's all it can mean. So, so when I say the accepted for value helps the issuer of the bill, let's say, you know, if I sold somebody a laptop or I sent them an invoice, and let's say I didn't trust them, and I presented them with a bill, I said, here's the bill, pay the bill for the laptop. And they said, yeah, no problem, I accept the bill, I'll pay the bill, no problem. Let's say I didn't trust them, and I said, hold on a second, buddy, I want you to write on there that you received the goods, accepted for goods received, right? I want you to confirm in writing that you received the goods from me, because if I don't trust this guy, I don't want him to turn around and pretend that he didn't receive the goods. You know, because he might pay me, and then the next week he might say, hey, you know, I'm suing you. I paid you money, and you didn't send me the stuff. No, I want him to confirm in writing. I want him to accept the bill for value received. So it would help me, the issuer of the bill, for the person who's paying the bill to confirm they receive value. So accepting a banker's acceptance for value doesn't help us. It helps the issuer of the bill. It confirms that we receive value. So why the fuck would we write it? It doesn't make sense. People make up a whole story about what they think that means. People think it means, oh, I'm conditionally accepting the bill, but I'm not under your statute, and I'm only paying it by set-off. Set-off's a separate thing, right? The acceptance to pay the thing is separate from the payment itself. That's two different things, right? The drawee's acceptance is in itself a specific thing, right? And if there is already a prepaid account, and you reckon the thing is already prepaid, and you're just setting this off against what they already owe you, then why would you be so ambiguous as to write for value? It doesn't, you know, it doesn't. It's so ambiguous. If it's prepaid, think about it. You would write accepted, set off against prepaid account. You would write that. You wouldn't write for value. It doesn't mean anything. What the fuck does that mean? Nothing. So let's say there is a prepaid account. Let's say we're setting it off against it. You would write accepted. Prepaid account, present to Treasury for set off against prepaid account. That's all you'd need to write. So I'm not disputing set off. I'm not disputing the prepaid account. You know, I understand that. I understand HCR 192, money as debt. It's all debt obligations. Fine. The thing is that pisses me off is just these two words, for value. And it annoys me that people use these words, accepted for value, and people just use it as if they're negotiable instrument experts. No fucker understands what it means, and everybody just uses it, and it doesn't mean anything. Everyone thinks it does, and it doesn't. It's bollocks, okay? Because you still, the instrument still becomes, just the acceptance alone is all that is required. That still charges the instrument. The instrument is still cash or currency. The instrument can still be returned as payment to settle the account, just with the acceptance alone. All right, it's still cash. The words for value have got no magic effect. It's the acceptance which has the magic effect, right? That's where you're revenuing your private credibility, onto the instrument and charging it with your credit. Is the acceptance, not the words for value. They are bullshit. They don't do anything. Anyway, I could be wrong, but that's what I reckon, okay? It would only make sense, sorry to go off on a tangent, it would only make sense in the reverse if somebody sent us a bill but we never received any goods. If somebody sent me a bill for a laptop, I'd say, fuck off, I never received the laptop. You didn't send me the laptop. I'm not paying you. So I would write not accepted, refused for calls, no goods received, or goods weren't delivered. So it's like the opposite. Right? It would make sense in the opposite. It's like, I'm not paying it, you didn't, and the reason is there was no value received. Refused for calls, no goods received, all right? Refused for lack of value. It's the opposite. That would make sense. That would be a real life actual scenario where it makes sense, but that's the opposite. It makes no sense in the positive to accept. Anyway, okay, so you get the idea. Right. Now, here's the next thing that annoys me. I don't even understand if it's necessary. I don't understand the necessity of the prepaid and the set off against the prepaid. I don't see why this accepted instrument, this bill of exchange, can't be just treated as cash, ledgered, monetized, and the credit sent to the issuer of the bill. I don't understand I don't understand why the social security number or a prepaid account to be set off against has got anything to do with it. Why do we even need to do that? I don't even understand. Like, let me explain what I mean. Let's just forget set off and prepaid for a minute, and let's just say, what could I write instead of the usual accepted for value? Accepted. How about accepted by accommodation party? Because I'm accommodating the straw man, right? It's drawn on the straw man, and I'm stepping in and paying it on behalf of the straw man. So accommodation party. That's UCC 3-419, right? That's what Winston says anyway, right? So let me know what you think of that. Accepted by accommodation party. Or just accepted by accommodation, that's all you need to write, okay? Not accepted for value, accepted by accommodation. Let me know what you think of that. We're the accommodation party paying the bill on behalf of the drawee because it's drawn on the straw man, okay? Accepted by accommodation. We're the accommodation party, straw man's the accommodated party. We're paying, all right? We're charging the instrument with our private credit by our acceptance, okay? Accepted by accommodation party. This instrument to be treated as cash. Okay, that makes sense? Because it's an accepted instrument, it's a bill of exchange. There's even a court decision in England by Lord Denning in 1969 which said this court has repeatedly, it is well settled in this court that a bill of exchange or promissory note is to be treated as cash, okay? So an accepted bill of exchange, which is what a money, that's what a money order is, a bill, an invoice, that's what it is, you accept it, is cash. Accepted by accommodation. This instrument to be treated as cash. This instrument returned as payment. This instrument is returned as payment. That makes sense, yeah? We've charged it. We're sending it back to them as payment. It's cash, right? Ledger this. Now, the thing is, it's not actually... Only a bank can turn an instrument into bank credit, digital bank money credit in a bank account, right? That's what a bank is. So I'm thinking I guess any bank can do that, but let's say Treasury, deposit to Treasury for monetization. That's what monetization is. Deposit to Treasury for monetization. Does that make sense? Am I going insane, or does this make sense? Deposit to Treasury for monetization. Forward the resulting credit according to the attached money order. Right? Because if it's a utility company, they can't monetize. Only a bank can monetize an instrument into bank credit. So it needs to go to the Treasury to be ledgered, and then they monetize it, right? That's my understanding anyway. And then the money order, once it's monetized, which means basically turned it into public bank credit, forward the resulting credit according to the attached money order, which that's the payment instructions to send the credit to whoever needs to receive the money, right? Wire it, wire. Now, I don't see, in my mind, that can all be done. That's nothing to do with prepaid or set off. That's just like ledger this. I don't see why set off against a prepaid account has to become involved with that. Why is set off against a prepaid account necessary? I can see how it could be used, if you reckon you've got a credit held and the Treasury is holding, your credit, and then this can be set off against that. I guess it kind of makes sense to set it off against what they already owe you, but why is that even necessary? I don't get it. Why can't they just ledger it, monetize it, and send the credit to the... I don't understand. So if anybody can shed some light on that for me, why on earth this can't be done, without set off against prepaid, then let me know your thoughts on that, okay? As far as I'm concerned, the acceptance is the magic bit. Yeah, here's my question. Once this thing is accepted, it can be treated as cash. Why can't it be... I know I'm repeating myself. Why can't it be deposited to Treasury for monetization and the credit forwarded, regardless of any birth certificate, social security, prepaid set off, okay? Let me know what you think. Okay, cheers.